Hello and welcome to the Fighting Spirit Podcast. As always, I'm Jason. I'm here to bring us the retrospective for Neal versus Thompson that took place on Saturday, and that'll be it for basically the year. We won't be coming back until the Holloway versus Cater card for January 16th, so that'll be coming out later on next month. Next year, this is going to close us out for the year. If you have been listening all year, if you just started listening, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for listening to the show. And if you support us over on Patreon, I want to thank you there as well. If you choose to support the show, we are grateful. And we also provide some additional fight picks there, some extra value, liquor reviews. And if you can support the show at a dollar amount that makes the most sense to you, I again want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. But let's talk a little bit about this contest. We did okay, 7-5, about 58% accurate overall. Kind of missed a couple at the end. We'll talk about the Neal fight. I think that was a bad fight because of some other stuff that was going on behind the scenes. But let's get into it. Here's the show. All right, I want to kick things off just by saying we went 1-2 on the Patreon. We gut Rob Font and missed Chaos Williams and Marlon Vera. We'll talk about those two respective losses. I think one of them should have gone in our favor. But either way, we landed a little outside of the money, only picking up one underdog in Rob Font. But let's talk about the main event. Jeff Neal, right, he was our pick. And going in, I had no idea this guy was supposedly having congestive heart failure, was blind in one eye. I heard some of his team had COVID, but he had 3 guys out in his team. There was just a laundry list of things that were a problem for this guy going into the fight. And after not having fought in quite a while, the ring rust, the medical conditions, it was a poor condition to go in. But I understand the guy had to show up, he had to perform, he had to get his paycheck, and I think that led to the loss against Stephen Thompson. Now, Thompson looked good. He looked like typical Wonder Boy, great movement, great karate style, basically kept Jeff Neal at bay. Neal wasn't able to really crowd him. On occasion, he did push him to the cage, but mostly this was a one-sided Thompson affair, outstriking him 171 to 85 with no takedowns out there at all. So, in the background, knowing we had all those health issues after the fact for Neal, it probably was a poor pick. The numbers had him overall, but hey, it just is what it is. You find out these things after the fact, and it's just something I didn't know about, and I would have been hesitant to make that call if I did. But it is what it is. We got it wrong, and Stephen Thompson picks up a phenomenal win. Not to totally take that away from him, even if Neal was healthy, there was definitely a good shot. Wonder Boy was going to get it done, and he walks away with a W. Moving on to the next one, Jose Aldo defeats Marlon Vera. In this one, it was all one-sided Jose Aldo. I thought he was battering of Marlon Vera. Marlon Vera did not look like he ever found a rhythm, ever found his gear against Aldo. Aldo was high pressure right away, even throwing out some of his infamous leg kicks from years back, just battering Vera the entire time. I thought at no point did Vera have momentum in this fight. He was constantly on the back foot. I never even got into a good clinch exchange with Aldo. Aldo just had his number all day in there for all 15 minutes, and we ended up getting this one incorrect. Is what it is. It was a tough one for Marlon Vera after coming off a spectacular win over Sugar Sean O'Malley, but he will now go back down the rankings after losing to what looked like a phenomenal Aldo, who came off of a bad fight against Gian. So, hey, maybe we'll see what else is in store for Aldo. He looked healthy. He looked crisp as ever out there. The King of Rio is back. I said he wasn't anymore, but he certainly, I guess, still holds the crown. So it was a mistake on my behalf. Moving on to the next one. This is one that I think we should actually get correct. Michelle Pereira defeats Chaos Williams. Chaos Williams was not played with by Pereira quite to the extent that I thought he was going to. He was a little bit of flash in there, but mostly he was pretty much on his job. He was 100% committed to actually defeating Chaos. And Chaos did connect with some decent shots, actually outstriking Pereira. I thought, he did enough damage. I thought he caught him with the good counter shots, enough to actually win this fight. I thought he won 2 out of 3 rounds. The problem was that Pereira ended up on top at the end of round number 3, and I think that's what swayed things here. So the first takedown, there was 2 for Pereira overall. I didn't think he did much with. Wasn't really any damage, didn't hold him down for very long. And there was that submission attempt too right at the end of the round, so maybe, again, that round could have went to Pereira. But there was just little things that Pereira did to cement the rounds for him. And even though I thought Chaos was winning the majority of the fight, it was the moments, and I think how close Pereira came to shutting the door on a couple of occasions, that actually led him to winning. I think, honestly, a lot of it came down to just fight IQ, knowing how things are scored, making it look like the momentum is in your favor going into the end of the fight. And overall, I think Chaos did win, but he didn't have the veteran knowledge, I think, to really accentuate certain moments in the fight to pick up a win. So, is what it is. It's one we got wrong. I thought Chaos had it, won all day. Wasn't even a split decision. It was straight up unanimous. And even though he outstruck Pereira and I think did more damage, it was those moments for Pereira where he did get it done. Moving on to the next one, we did get right. We actually were doing really well for a good chunk of this card, so we kind of get into the good part here. Rob Font defeats Marlon Moraes. Great contest. Performance of the night money, along with Stephen Thompson, Marcin Tyburro, and Jimmy Flick, by the way. But Rob Font picks up a knockout 3 minutes, 47 seconds in. Marlon Moraes never found, really a gear at all. Rob Font's boxing, he was able to hang right in the pocket, bring it to Moraes. Moraes wasn't able to utilize his kicks in an effective way. He actually went for takedowns right away, which I think was a little odd for Moraes, who's such a dominant, dynamic kickboxer. But Font got back to his feet and ended up shutting the door in this one and picking up a solid win and some money for us over on Patreon. Then this one's tough. I had picked Greg Hardy in this one. I thought that, he poured it on pretty good for Tyburro, but the problem is when you're that guy, that type of guy that needs to put somebody away in the first 5 minutes or everything starts to go to shit. That's basically what happened with Hardy. Hardy was beating on Tyburro, outstriking him handily, and then Tyburro just started bringing the fight, being first. I think Hardy lost a lot of his edge, maybe a little bit of his confidence. He certainly lost some stamina, and he was not able to handle the output of Tyburro going into round number 2, and that's when Tyburro was able to shut the door. And when you saw that fight end, Hardy was done. His face looked done. From a guy 5 minutes earlier who looked like a wrecking machine, who was moments away from knocking out Tyburro. By the way, the chin on that guy, he hit some really clean shots from Hardy, who does hit like a Mack truck, but Tyburro was able to weather the storm and show him that he's a real fighter, and Greg Hardy's just a phenomenal athlete in the MMA game. So, hey, is what it is, although it does suck kind of for Hardy because he was calling out how he wanted to be a boxer. He's going to knock out Tyson. Look, if you can't knock out Marcin Tyburro with 4-ounce gloves, you ain't knocking out Tyson Fury. Let me just tell you that. So, hey, bad loss for Hardy. Is he done? Who knows? Probably not. But this was rather telling because he's now fighting better and better guys. He can't just fight cans on their entry to the UFC every week. So it'll be interesting to see where he does go from here. He could be done. He could be back. I don't know. He could be on the chopping block, though. I think it's certainly possible. Either way, extra 50 Gs for Tyburro and a solid win. Next one we did get correct. Pettis looked amazing defeating Alex Morono. Really good striking out of Pettis. I thought he was really able to handle the range of Morono. He was in and out. He was sticking and moving. He just looked really good. He even handled the takedown of Morono, getting back to his feet and just taking care of business, looking like Pettis of the past in a way. He's calling now to come back and fight Tony Ferguson again. I actually like that rematch. I think it's a fun fight. The first contest they had was a lot of fun. Tony ended up winning, but Pettis had his moments in that fight. Let's not forget that he had hurt Ferguson at different times. So I could definitely see this being another good competitive fight. It might be a little too damaging for Tony given the kind of onslaught of destruction he's had lately, but I'd like to see them get back in there. I think it's a fun fight for every viewer out there. Next one we got correct as well. Panini Kinzad defeats Sajar Eubanks, unanimous decision, outstriking her basically 2-1. A couple of takedowns out of Sarge, but really nothing to write home about. Kinzad really basically had this thing in cruise control, utilizing her superior Muay Thai and picking up a solid victory. And the next one here, this one was tough. Duran Win outstruck 45-20, but dude scores 12 goddamn takedowns in the fight, and it's hard to overcome that. The guy definitely has no striking to speak of whatsoever. If you can't get to the mat, you can't win. But when you get a guy down 12 times, it's hard to overlook a win for this guy. So solid win out of him. I'm not the biggest Duran Win fan, but hey, when you score 12 takedowns, I guess that's an easy win that night, right? Anyways, next one here. Talia Santos, another win for us. She defeats Jillian Robertson, unanimous decision. Robertson having a hard time, only really scoring 9 strikes over the fight, or 9 really good landed strikes anyways. She was taken down. She looked like she was mostly dominant on the ground too, something that Robertson has kind of later claim to as being a superior grappling fighter. And Talia proved that, Jillian is still not ready to hang with the top fighters in the game and picked up a phenomenal victory. So hats off to Talia Santos. In the next one, Tafon Nachakui defeats Jamie Pickett. Jamie Pickett is tough as hell. He was outstruck 120-40. 120 to just 40, so 3-1 on the strikes. He got a knockdown. Jamie Pickett really just scores the one takedown, doesn't do much with it. He's tough as hell. Nachakui, the guy looks like he's built for knockouts. Maybe Pickett just had a hell of a chin on him that night, so he wasn't able to score on him, but he did connect with some clean shots, and I do want to see what this kid has, because at middleweight, when you get that kind of output, you get a good gas tank, and you can do some damage against some big names. So we'll see what happens for this guy at middleweight. I am interested to see what he is capable of. In the next one here, this was a phenomenal fight. Flyweight performance tonight, money out of Flick. Basically does like a jump to... not guard, really jumps right to the triangle, gets Durden down, cinches it up, and scores a great submission 3 minutes, 18 seconds into round number 1. Durden was putting it on him, it seemed like, with his hand, so it was a good move out of Flick and picked up a good win. That was just fun as hell. Good stuff to see. And then the last one we got incorrect. Christos Gagos defeats Carlton Minus. And this one here, it was a switch out. I can't remember who exactly Minus was going to fight originally. We had stuck with Minus, still with the numbers. And Gagos picks up a solid couple day notice win to get a unanimous decision. Really making it done with the takedowns here. Scoring 5 takedowns to Minus's none. So like I said, we went 7-5 overall. 1-2 on the Patreon. One of them was an underdog, so we made back some of the money, but unfortunately we could not close out the year in the money, losing out on Chaos Williams, and then Marlon Vera's disappointing performance against Aldo really just did not allow us to pick up some money here to close things out. So a little disappointing, but hey, that's the MMA game. That's how things go, and sometimes you can't leave it up to the judges in the case of Williams versus Pereira. But hey, we're going to be moving on to 2021. We got some great fights coming up. Obviously, we talked about Holloway versus Cater. That's going to be a great contest. I don't know if the card's really, it hasn't really come together just yet, so we'll have some more fights on there. We obviously have the Conor McGregor fight versus Poirier coming up on the 23rd, and then we got a February card coming up with UFC 258 on February 13th. Right now, that has one fight on it. Macy Barber versus Alexa Grasso. Good ladies flyweight fight for sure. So that's does it for me, I think. That does it for our look ahead. That does it for the year. That does it for the next couple of weeks. So again, I just want to say thank you for listening to me this whole past year since we started. In fact, let's pull up some of the numbers here just so we can get some of our download numbers. I'm going to pop on over to Shout Engine, who hosts the show for us, and pull these up so we can just give you a little information. Also, so you know, we're on YouTube and we're on Spotify as well, but I think the primary source for most people, or I see most of the numbers for downloads and everything else, is coming out of Shout Engine. All right, so the page is up here. We had 138 downloads just for the month of December and 4,801 for the year, which is definitely growth. It says we have an estimated audience here of 122. I don't know if that one's totally true, but hey, I'll take it if we got it. 4,800 though downloads. I was kind of hoping we'd get to 5,000 this year. Looks like we're going to come up a little short. Obviously, we will get this download out there, but I don't think we're going to make up the gap, and that's perfectly okay. I'm happy that anybody's honestly listening at all. I hope you find those numbers fun. Let's keep them growing. Tell your friends that you like the Fighting Spirit podcast. Share the show. And let's try to get some other people involved in the conversation here. So, until I speak with you again next time, hopefully in a much, much better year of 2021, happy fight picking and Happy New Year.